Hi, everybody. My name is Austin Valley, and I am one of the co-leads of Orlando YIMBY. If you've not heard of us before, YIMBY stands for Yes in My Backyard, and we advocate for housing abundance because we look around Orange County and Central Florida, and we see a housing affordability crisis. And in large part, we view that as being driven by the fact that there is just not enough housing. And so we advocate for more housing, more affordable housing, more sustainable housing. We are a pro-housing organization, and I'm very excited to be here today with Sandra Faltme Hall. And Sandra, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing here?
Absolutely, Austin. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
And I love being in one of my district areas here of Eatonville. Super duper excited about it and for them hosting us today. I'm Sandra Faltme Hall, community leader, community advocate, and definitely a servants leader that has brought about some changes in our community, right? And I intend to take that across District 2. I have a background in banking. I'm super excited about that. Manage $93 million. I'm a nonprofit leader and founder that has positively changed the Pine Hills community and surrounding communities for the better. And we started with advocating for our young people. You know, empowering communities one family at a time. So I take my banking background and my experience in leadership and being a servant leader to know that it is time to bring about changes that we need in our community. Time to be that leader that's a commissioner for all. So I'm extremely excited to be here with you. And I can't wait to talk about affordable housing because that's one of my platforms.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, housing is all we like to talk about. And you know, I think first of all, it's great that we're even having this conversation.
Sure.
I think if you read the newspaper, you look in the news, it's a lot of stories about housing affordability, affordable
Yes.
housing, but it doesn't get talked about enough by
Right.
our elected officials.
Sure.
At least that's what we've seen. And so very grateful for the conversation here.
Thank you.
I'd love to just start with maybe you could share a little bit about what your experience has been, or maybe
Yes.
some loved ones that you might know, your community
Sure.
members, your neighbors, and what that has been like with the
Absolutely.
housing crisis here.
Thank you. So we are in a crisis. That is a crisis that a number of people are facing, from our young people to our adults to our seniors. And in my listening tours that I've done throughout those 8 areas, the conversation has been, how do we afford housing? $1,900 for a 2-bedroom is not affordable, right? In any shape or measure, whether it's for a home or whether it's for an apartment. And people are concerned, where are they going to live? When we think about our apartments, let's start there. People directly out of high school, directly out of college, have followed what we've asked them to do. Go off to school, right? Come back, work in their communities. They're not being paid enough to afford the cost of housing. And they're starting with apartments because housing is not affordable in terms of purchasing a home. And purchasing a home has gone through the roof, right? And I don't think that our elected officials are talking about it enough because they're scared of the conversation with our developers, right? They're scared to have that conversation about what that looks like because they think they're going to offend individuals that are our developers that are bringing about some of these high costs that you see around town. So I think it's important for someone to care about what's going on in our community, be that person that stands up and speaks out about what the community wants to see. And I think they're concerned about cost and where they're going to live and what's going to be done about it. How do we solve this problem?
Yeah, that's great. You know, Sandra, you hit on something really key there, which is the wages, right? So one data point that might be interesting for you or the listeners to hear is that when you adjust for wages
Yes.
in the country, Greater Orlando is the 5th least affordable region in the country for housing. People think San Francisco, New York City, and of course those places are expensive, but often their wages are commensurate with that
Sure.
sort of housing, at least more so than here. So I think you talking about wages is a critical piece of that.
Yes.
I would love to, you know, given that Orlando YIMBY's mission is to build more housing and that what we call housing abundance, could you maybe share a little bit about how you think about how do we build more housing? What does that look like, and how do we bring that here?
Absolutely. Let's take the fastest growing area right now, which is Apopka. There's lots of land and lots of provisions for housing to be built, but we want to make sure that the right developers are building these homes, right? So there's lots of land in Apopka. And when I tell you fastly growing, I'm watching it myself, and I've met some people that I just didn't even know that there were subdivisions there that have gone up. So I think it's important for us to have that conversation with our developers, right? Because the space is there to build these homes. But let's talk about who's purchasing these homes, right? Because right now we're seeing individuals that are pushing the price up at sky high levels, right? So we have investors that are coming in, we have corporations that are making purchases, and we have individuals that are coming down with unlimited dollars. Doesn't make it affordable, right? You barely can find something for 450,000 today. That's not realistic, right? So we definitely have to make sure that the land is being utilized correctly. Right?
Yeah, that's a great point. One thing that we're seeing some of in other states, other cities, other regions is taking existing neighborhoods that maybe the vast majority of Orange County is you're only allowed to build a detached single family home.
Okay.
And a detached single family home is the most expensive form of housing.
Sure.
And so what do you think about maybe letting some more, duplexes, fourplexes? We're not talking about high rises in the middle of neighborhoods, but what do you think about that? What we call gentle density, sort of making its way into some of our more.
I think absolutely that would make more housing available, right? So I'm definitely for supporting that, right? Because then it makes it affordable, right? And I don't think a number of people think about that, nor do they have an open mind if they hear about it to entertain that. And I'm open-minded about that because I think that's a great idea. Didn't think about it before. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea.
I appreciate that, and we can have some more discussions about that. But I think that's an important starting point for
Absolutely, sure.
So, of course, in addition, the word affordable housing can be a little funny sometimes. What does that affordable housing mean? As we think about subsidized housing, so providing subsidy for the housing, what are some of your ideas on where we should get funding for that sort of housing to make sure that we're funding truly affordable housing projects?
Well, I hear in some areas, I think Tampa has talked about some CRA funding. That's possible out there. I definitely have to do some more research on the Sandowski funding, right? Because, you hear good and bad there where that's concerned. I definitely think that we need to start budgeting some money, though, to help our community. How do we expect to grow and push forward if we're in a crisis and we're not helping the crisis? We can make some purchases as well, right? To help our community grow and to help affordable housing get to actually that affordable housing, right? So definitely there's some more homework for me to do to find out how we can help in that department. But I think if you have concerned elected officials that are in seats, they can do something about making sure that we head towards affordable housing, not just talk about it, but do something about it. I really think that's important.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. Those are some good ideas too. You mentioned the Sadowski Fund. For anyone who's not familiar, that's the state level fund to fund these projects. And almost every year, the legislature wants to take all the money out. So if you ever want to go to Tallahassee, we'll go with you and we'll go lobby to make sure that we can get those dollars.
Let's go.
We'll go fight that with you.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I'm there with you.
Awesome. We love to hear that.
Thank you.
One other thing that YIMBY does a lot of is whenever there's this sort of irony, which is that we need a lot more housing. But if you ask anyone, they don't want the housing to be next to them, right? They say, yeah, we need more housing, but, and this is where our name comes from, not in my backyard. So we want to say yes in my backyard.
Yes.
And so without getting into specific projects or developments, but just in general, as a housing project is being proposed, maybe some neighbors are for it, some are against it. What things would you consider when you're judging whether or not you would want to support a particular housing development?
I would consider educating our community, definitely letting them understand the importance of where we are today and where we're looking to go. So it's okay to say not in my backyard, right? But where should we go?
Yeah.
Absolutely. How do we solve this problem? How about bringing about solutions? So it's so easy to say, no, I don't want that here. I don't want this here. But let's think about it long term, what that looks like. My husband once said a long time ago, we were asked a question, I remember, 20 years from now, what do you think this is going to look like? And when he looked at the room, he said, honestly, half of us won't be here in 20 years, right? Stop putting a stop sign on things that can move us forward.
I can give you a hug right now. That's
okay.
a really good. That's a really good answer.
Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate that. That's really
no, it's
refreshing
important
to hear. Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Why are you putting a no when we can move forward with that yes for the betterment of our community.
That's awesome. You know,
Absolutely.
one thing we see sometimes too is that, let's say it's not even in your district. Let's say
Yes.
that there's a housing development that's being proposed in a totally different district.
Yes.
And you look at it and it makes sense. It's maybe
Yes.
it's affordable, it's sustainable.
Sure.
And for whatever reason, that district commissioner doesn't want that to be built. Maybe for political reasons, maybe it's donors. I'm not going to make assumptions,
Sure.
but could you speak to your comfort in standing up in that instance and saying, I get that that's your district, but this is good for the good of the county, and so I'm going to support it? How do you think about a decision like that, and what would you consider in something
You
like
know,
that?
it may come across controversial, right? Because it's going to be, oh, that's my district, I didn't vote for it. But when I believe in the leadership that I have shown this community all these years, I always stood up for some things that were not comfortable, right? And that didn't align with what everyone else thought, but it aligned with the greater good, and it was good for us as a whole to move our community forward. And I definitely would stand up if I think it would be for the greater good. And, you know, have that conversation. Why shouldn't we do this?
Yeah.
Have people thinking.
Yeah.
People second guess their thoughts, what they thought, and why the way they looked at it, because I would try to show them a different way. I have an open mind about a number of things, right? And I know a lot of people may not be comfortable with that, but somebody has got to move the needle.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that as well.
Okay.
When we think about building, you know, what we call infill housing, so building where we're already at, a lot of it's for affordability reasons, lots for sustainability reasons, so that we're not sprawling. A lot of it's just quality of life.
Sure.
Right? You have walkable. One of my favorite parts of a lot of our neighborhoods in Orange County is the main streets that go through
Yes.
them. Right? Eatonville has a great main street.
Yes.
I live in College Park. We have a great main street as well.
Nice.
How do you think about, how do we make our neighborhoods more walkable? What do you think that looks like, and how do we bring that into more of our neighborhoods?
You know, that may involve us going up in the duplexes that you mentioned, right? That may involve that because we have limited spaces, just as you mentioned, right? And that may take us going up. I've seen it in New York. I've seen it work. I've passed areas that I saw 3 or 4 years ago, and I look now, and there's 6 or 7 families that are living comfortably in there, but they're able to walk to the grocery store. They're able to walk to the park, you know, and that's just utilizing the space that's there. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we thinking about that? It works. Why aren't we taking a look at models and cities that work and implementing them where we live here to work here?
Yep.
Absolutely.
And then I like to say that it's good small business policy as
Yes.
well. I like to say that the best thing you can do for a restaurant is
Yes.
put 4 floors of housing on top of it.
Absolutely.
It smells delicious. You're going to come downstairs and you're going to
Sure.
get that bakery or whatever it is. It's just good for
Business
those
grows.
businesses.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely see that in New York, and I love the concept of it. And I think it works. And I people happy walking their dogs, comfortably walking to the park. No need for a car.
Yeah. Now you're talking our language for sure.
Absolutely. I love it.
I covered all my big questions, but I want to sort of leave it to you. Anything I missed out, anything you want to make sure that we hit on when it comes to housing and housing affordability that you'd like to talk about?
I want people to put it back on the forefront of having that conversation through our elected officials, understanding that we have to be the ones to help move the needle along. We have to be the voice for the voice. And if we're not talking about it, then why are we there? Why aren't we being the change we want to see? So affordable housing is one of my platform issues. I think it's important for everyone to understand that as we grow, we're getting ready to go into 2023. Are you listening? Right? We need your help to move this needle for affordable housing. I never thought we would get here where we are today when I see the prices. Makes no sense. Absolutely, we can be that change as an elected official. So Sandra Fatme Hall, www.sandrafatme.com, can help you to bring about that change along with Mr. Austin and the great, what's the name of the organization
Orlando
again?
Yimby.
Orlando Yimby. We can be that change. We can partner up. We can get together as a group to be the change we want to see. How about supporting groups that are out there doing the work, right? Be that change we want to see. SandraFatme.com. Go on there, donate, fill out petitions, help mobilize this community, and help us bring that affordable housing to a home near you.
It's a great conversation. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you so much.